Good evening and welcome back to the Old England Journal of Medicine. Vitamins! You might have heard of these ruddy blighters. Newfangled word, but they've been around donkey's years, you know. We're visiting the colonies again in this edition of our celebrated periodical, as the history of vitamins is part and parcel of the history of exploration. Hence why I've dusted off the old headgear from my nautical days as a ship's physician. And the sea is where we begin our alphabetical journey. You'll come to see that vitamins are as easy as ABC. As simple as... oh, dearie me. The story of vitamin C is well known to any proud seaman, for it was at sea that vitamin C was analysed with reason. The Bible tells of Nebuchadnezzar performing various experiments. Ambrose Paré innovated a way to treat wounds with various elements, but Scotsman James Lind blew scientific wind into the sails of scurvy-ridden sailors, who died in droves on naval ships, merchant boats and whalers. Scurvy is a fatal disease caused by lack of vitamin C, but in 1747 no one knew about vitamin theory. Lind performed the world's first formal clinical trial, which would eventually lead the Navy to stockpile citrus fruits to save seafaring men from a death so briny, leading to British seamen thereafter being known as limeys. He divided 12 ailing men from Royal Naval troops, receiving a different therapy in 6 separate groups: sulfuric acid, seawater, vinegar and cider, oranges and lemons, and a purgative high in fibre. Only the men who took fresh fruit recovered. This Scottish physician had thus discovered the first dietary plan to avoid vitamin deficiency, but a century later naval explorers forgot this basic proficiency. They set off to the poles. Citrus they felt they could do without, but they'd be plagued by more than just one vitamin, as we'll soon find out. By 1910, and Captain Scott's Terra Nova expedition, the knowledge of Lind's citrus fruits had apparently gone missing. Common instruction in the 19th century no longer deemed worthy, and as a result the ill-fated Antarctic expedition was cursed with scurvy. In 1912, 3 men set off into Antarctic ice uncharted. It would be an entirely different vitamin that would see one of them martyred. Yorkshire-born Australian Mawson, Swiss Mertz and Ninnis from Surrey braved hundreds of miles of sub-zero gale force blizzards and flurry. After a bright start, soon the luck turned as time passed. Blindness, injury, and then Ninnis dead, plunged into a crevasse. The sled that went with him had upon it all their food, but Mertz and Mawson struggled on, albeit in low mood. No choice but to slaughter their dogs for sustenance. They loved their huskies, an awful choice to countenance. A hellish time lay ahead as they turned back and weakened, eating the tough, unpalatable meat, desperately seeking a beacon. Mawson now snowblind, but Mertz increasingly unwell. Unknown to them, their dogs sounding his death knell. Husky meat is gristly, but they have a soft, large liver. Mawson took pity on Mertz as he slowed and shivered. Mertz ate the tender organ meat, but worsened still. They made it close to shelter through an iron will. They had to kill the last dog, as writ in Mawson's diary. He documented their suffering and Mertz's expiry. Mertz sick, skin coming off legs, frostbite and in pain. Had a great breakfast off ginger's skull, thyroids and brain. Then delirium, incontinence. He raves and breaks a tent pole. Mawson tucks him into his sleeping bag. Life fades from his soul. Mawson survived another month alone with a mysterious ailment. Hair and skin sloughing off his body, his strength failing. Greenland huskies bred by Inuit normally feed on seals. Seals, huskies and polar bears have livers that make toxic meals to humans who cannot digest the poisonous amounts of vitamin A contained therein, and so by all accounts. The illness that befell both men was hypervitaminosis A. Mawson made it home to Australia, where our story stays. In 1860, the interior of the great nation of Australia had not yet been traversed. Robert Burke and William Wills led an expedition that would be somewhat cursed. They set off from Melbourne to great fanfare with 15,000 watching fans, 26 camel, 23 horses and 20 tons in their caravan. An oak table, a Chinese gong, and 60 gallons of rum they took upon their journey. The rum apparently to stop the camels getting scurvy, but you now know better than that. The trip itself was a disaster, with many men having the sense to quit. It's gone down in Australian law as the whole thing went to pot. Those that were left were found by the indigenous Yandrawanda who offered to help. The travellers accepted some nadu bread but chased the natives off with gunshot and a yelp. The nadu bread was good and Burke and Wills thought they knew how to make it, but they didn't prepare the nadu like the locals do, so they in fact faked it. Wills wrote, "I'm very weak and my legs and arms are nearly skin and bone. Starvation on nadu is not unpleasant, but I can barely move," and we're alone. Despite feeling well fed, both men died of malnutrition. The cause was indeed the nadu, and ignoring local cognition. The Yandrawanda prepared the clover in a way to denature an enzyme. The plant contains thiaminase. To eliminate, it's easy, but it takes time. Thiamine is vitamin B1, thiaminase an enzyme that depletes it. The men didn't know the nadu was killing them as they continued to eat it. Beriberi was the cause of death rarely seen in the West except for alcoholics. The mistake was thinking what the Yandrawanda said was a load of rubbish.